G'day, I'm Paul. So we normally focus on new cars, but we were given the opportunity to check out like $20 million worth of Ferraris. And these aren't just brand new Ferraris all parked next to each other. These are some of the most important Ferraris in Ferrari's history. So today I'm going to take you on a bit of a walk around here, give you some of the key highlights of these cars. These include the 288 GTO, the F40, the F50, the Enzo and the LaFerrari as well. I just don't know any place you're going to see this kind of metal parked next to each other in one place. So it is pretty exciting. Won't be able to drive any, but I'll run you through some of the key highlights. Now, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you can find out whenever we do fun stuff like this. Let's get started. Okay, so where are we? What are we doing here? So this is the Ferrari dealership in Melbourne, and this week is Grand Prix week in Melbourne. It's at Albert Park. I live just around the corner from it, so it's always an exciting part of the year. So we'll start here with the 288 GTO. So this was a homologation of the 308 GTB. They built 272 of these. When this was new, it was priced at around $100,000, which is crazy because now it's worth like 5 million plus. It is really quite an amazing car. So what makes this so special is the engine. It's a 2.9 litre twin turbocharged petrol V8. Has a 5-speed manual, just under 300 kilowatts of power, almost 500 Newton meters of torque. To put those numbers into perspective, that's around as much as you're getting out of something like a Ford Ranger Raptor today, and this was the supercar of its time in 1984. It'll do 0 to 100 in 4.9 seconds. Well, it did when it was new, and had a top speed of 305 kilometers an hour. So just in terms of weight, had a dry weight of about 1,500 kilos, and the cool thing was, cool at the time, you could actually adjust the suspension. So if you were going race driving, you could then lower it. If you were driving it on the road, you could also raise it as well. So you had a little bit of versatility there. It has like this bead lock set up here on the wheels. And it'll be interesting as we progress forward throughout the generations of Ferraris to look at the brakes, because the brakes here, they're pretty big for a 1980s car, but they get positively enormous as we work our way down the Ferrari range and get to the faster stuff. You can even see some aero elements here as well down the side. You've got this little scoop down the bottom here, and then up the top there as well, a little bit of cooling for the engine too. So it is a remarkable looking car here in person, and you know, you can just imagine when this thing fires up how incredible it must sound. Okay, F40, I think everyone had a picture of these up on their wall. This is still like a dream car for me. It looks incredible here in person. It's actually pretty surprising how small these are. You look at them in pictures and you think these are enormous cars, but if you look at me standing here, it sort of just goes up to my hip there. So pretty cool. This was built to celebrate Ferrari's 40th anniversary. It was the last car personally signed off by Enzo Ferrari. When it was new, it had a price tag of about $600,000. Now you think about that at the time, that was a lot of money. So this was in the 80s, 87. So it was a lot of money to be charging for a car like this, but people were willing to pay for it, and they ended up selling a lot of them. They were going to cap the build at 400 of them. Except that didn't really happen. They ended up making something like 1,300 in total, including a stack that went to the States as well. Today, these will cost you around $2 million, if not more, depending on the condition. They also had different variants of these as well. So depending on which one you land on, the price will just keep going up. So it also uses a twin turbocharged V8. This is a 2.9 litre, 5-speed manual. It makes just over 350 kilowatts of power. The US spec was slightly more powerful. It makes just under 600 Newton meters of torque. In terms of weight, 1,254 kilos for EU spec. The US one was heavier. It actually has some pretty cool features around it as well that I'll run you through in a sec, but can you just imagine manhandling this thing up to 100 k's an hour from a standstill and a top speed of 321 kilometers an hour. Now, we were talking about brakes before, so you can see here the big step up from the 288. So you have cross-draw brakes here. These are a Brembo brake as well. Similar wheel design as well to the 288. So you have those studs around the outside and that star pattern in the center there. And I love these tires too. These look like period correct tires, so a Pirelli P0. These were specially developed for the car because it had to be able to do this incredible speed. And you can see here the Ferrari logo on the side there, which is pretty unreal. Another fun fact as well, these actually came out of the factory with a lot of weight reduction. So it meant plastic windows, even the back is still plastic. Earlier versions of the car also had sliding windows there as well. They then later fitted rolling down windows, which is what this particular car has here. And they removed a lot of the creature comforts that you had in regular Ferraris at the time to just give it as much performance as possible. You can see a lot of that aero work here as well for cooling. So you've got cooling ducts here, and down here as well. It really is quite a remarkable design, and it just looks so cool here in person. Okay, F50. So you fast forward about 10 years and you get to this Just having a look at this next to the F40, it is significantly bigger, especially at the rear. And that's because I had to mount an enormous engine that I'll run you through in just a second. So I only built 349 of these, so these were a whole lot rarer than the F40 was. In addition to that, these were more expensive too, $700,000 price tag. If you're buying one today, it is also more expensive because it is rarer. They have a price tag of over $5 million today, so it is a very expensive piece of Ferrari history. They've actually used Formula One technology here for the engine as well, which is what makes this so special. So the engine went from a turbocharged V8 to a naturally aspirated V12. This is a 4.7 litre. Went from a 5-speed manual to a 6-speed manual. 382 kilowatts of power, just under 500 newton meters of torque. In terms of the weight, 1,230 kilos. So incredibly light for a car that uses a naturally aspirated V12. Did 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds and had a top speed of just over 300 kilometers an hour. So some of the cooling elements are amazing. So you've got these big ducts down the front here that pull all the air through to keep it cool. And if we come around to the brakes here, you can see again, they've gone bigger once more. So not only do you have a bigger diameter there, they're cross-drilled, still a Brembo brake, but they've moved away from that studded design and just gone with this sort of more simpler looking finish. It is just incredible to see this car in person, and just also incredible to see how far forward the passenger cab is. So basically the seats end here and the rest is just engine. So naturally aspirated V12. The other thing I love as well, if you come around to the back with me, Sean, have a look at this. With the light coming down on top of the car through that sort of plastic rear, you can actually just see all of your engine components in the back here as well. So it is just an amazing looking design, and yeah, for the mid-90s, this was the bee's knees when it came to supercars. Okay, so early 2000s, this is the Ferrari Enzo. It was named after Enzo Ferrari. This was one step further in terms of F1 technology. So it used a carbon body and a whole stack of F1 aero tech as well. This was priced at $1 million when it was new. So you can see the prices got slightly more expensive as they realized that people were willing to actually pay this kind of money. They ended up producing about 400 of these, and the price today is about $4 million. So it has definitely crept up there. And in terms of size as well, this again retains that sort of wider rear on it, because once more you are trying to fit an enormous V12 engine under the back there, so that is pretty cool. So this uses a 6-litre naturally aspirated V12. It makes just under 500 kilowatts of power, little under 700 newton meters of torque. And this went from a manual transmission to a 6-speed automated manual transmission. So it was kind of a manual transmission that was controlled by the car. Weighed just under 1,500 kilos. It did 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.14 seconds. And this really went to town on top speed as well. The top speed of 350 kilometers an hour. So active aero in the front here, you can actually see this whole front end is designed to just pull the car down as much as humanly possible at speed. Same story at the rear. It is all about just giving as much downforce as you possibly can. And that means that at 200 kilometers an hour, this was providing over 3,000 newton meters of downforce. When you went up to 300 kilometers an hour, it was doubling that amount of downforce. So over 7,000 newton meters of downforce on the car as it carves through the air. So it is pretty incredible stuff. I also love the way the doors work on these as well. So it is just really a cool piece of history for Ferrari in the early 2000s. So fast forward another 10 years to 2013 and you have this. It's the LaFerrari. It was the last kind of supercar that Ferrari built. There is actually another one coming in 2026. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but we know that it's in the works. This was the first full hybrid from Ferrari. So you can see there, it actually has a plug for you to charge this, because it actually has like a KERS system that I'll run you through in just a second. This actually looks, I don't know, it's longer than the Enzo, but it still is incredibly large. It has these cool doors that open upwards as well. It is just an absolute masterpiece with stacks of aero around here as well that I'll show you in a second. In terms of price, these were expensive, and they still are expensive. They were over $2 million when they were new. It was invitation only to buy one, and today you're going to be paying upwards of $4 million if you do want to get your hands on one. So under the rear, it uses a 6.3 litre naturally aspirated V12, but the big difference here is that it has that KERS system. So it produces 588 kilowatts of power and 700 newton meters of torque just from your naturally aspirated V12, but the KERS system adds an additional 120 kilowatts, and that produces a total system output of 708 kilowatts and 900 newton meters of torque. It also went from an automated manual through to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It is also slightly heavier than the Enzo. It comes in at 1,585 kilos, whereas the Enzo was 1,480. And this also has a slightly higher top speed as well of 352 k's an hour. But most importantly, it'll get from 0 to 100 in just 2.6 seconds. That is phenomenally quick. So I reckon the car just looks so tiny next to me. It is kind of comical. It would be very hard to get in and out of. But have a look at this aero. So down the front here, you have all of the cooling elements. So this helps provide cooling for the electric system and also the internal combustion engine. But as you look down the front here, all of this empty space here is designed to create as much downforce as possible. So when this is carving through the air at 300 k's an hour, you want to be pulling it to the ground as much as you can. I love the wing mirrors. Look at those. They stick out all the way to the side, so you can not only see down the back of the car, so again, you can reduce the amount of resistance the car has when it pushes through the air. If we have a look at the brakes, these went up another level altogether. Have a look at the size of these things. So the amount of face you have on that rotor is enormous. So cross-drilled there as well, carbon ceramic, Brembo caliper there too. And look at these wheels, they look absolutely beautiful. So I reckon this is probably the best looking wheel out of the bunch. It is just nice and thin and just beautifully designed there. Have a look at this as well. You've got some more aero down the side here. In fact, most of that door is actually there for the sake of that aero so that you can cool the vehicle as much as possible. So when you do open it, you're actually having to step into the center of the car there to drive it, which is why these wing mirrors have to stick out so much. And then have a look at the engine under the back here. Look at that, that is just a work of art as well. So they've deliberately made this so you can actually see it from the outside and just get the most out of that beautiful stripe down the center there, the carbon lid on it as well. It is really just a beautiful sight to see. Same story down the back here as well. You have these open sections that allow you to see the back part of the engine. All of these orange sections are high voltage cables. So, you know, if you're in an accident, the firefighters know what to cut, and then more active aero down the back here as well. You can see these flaps can go up and down to adjust the aero as required. So pretty remarkable looking design. So that has been a look at over $20 million worth of Ferraris, which is pretty awesome. And we're looking forward to seeing the F1 in Melbourne again this year. So let me know in the comments section below, which one would you take? If money was no object, you can only take one. Let me know which one you're gonna drive home in and which one you want to keep for the rest of your life. For me, it's gonna be the F40 because I just reckon it is absolutely unreal. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. More likes equals more chance of me buying an F40. Maybe. Till next time, take it easy.